Hello everybody, my name is KingStix and today I'm here to talk to you about the new Evelyn. Now I understand that they reworked her in patch 7.20 and it is currently patch 7.21 and they're about to put out a new patch, but I wanted to wait to put my 2 cents in on the matter until the water had kind of settled a little bit and I could make an educated opinion about her current state. And I can tell you with all certainty that the new Evelyn is complete horseshit. I played against Evelyn in pretty much every elo. I played against her in bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, high diamond, and low masters, every single one. And I can tell you without a doubt that she is really shitty. This is coming from a player who plays primarily Rammus and Warwick in the jungle. Both of those junglers can easily 1v1 her, so that is something to keep in mind. I don't really play weak junglers like a Mumu, therefore my interactions with Evelyn might be different than your interactions. If you're picking off-meta junglers, Evelyn might be a little bit stronger than your picks. I don't really pick off-meta jungle champions because there's really no point. Now I'm going to go over why the new Evelyn really isn't that good. At Evelyn's core, she is an assassin. Every single one of her abilities now scales only with AP. So forget about building any hybrid damage or any AD. You can't do it. If you do, you're gonna suck. You have to build AP. That's about it. Now her passive, they got rid of, used to give mana regeneration no matter how low your mana was. And now it gives HP regeneration assuming that your health is lower than a certain amount. So what that pretty much means is, especially in the early game, you're not getting any extra health regeneration from your passive unless you're below half health. Guess what? Evelyn's a squishy jungler, so if you're below half health and you run into the enemy jungler, you're gonna get fucked. They'll most likely one-shot you. And if you're half health or less, you can't really go in for the gank because if the enemy jungler comes, you're going to get screwed really hard. Not to mention, if the enemies invade your blue buff and take it from you, you're really screwed. You're an extremely mana hungry jungler, and now that your passive doesn't give you mana anymore, if your blue buff is taken from you, your game's pretty much over. Since your early game's already garbage, you won't even be able to get to the mid game, which is her only strong point, and you've lost already. Make sure you guard that blue buff if you're playing as Evelyn, and if you're playing against her, try to take it, especially if you have a stronger level 1 team comp than the enemy team. If Riot wants Evelyn to be a strong jungler, her passive needs to give her health regeneration that works no matter how low or high on health she is. Now, I'm fine with it healing her faster the lower on health she is, but it should also heal her even if she has over half health at any rank or total amount of AP, because your total ability power does affect how much health that it will kick in. Since it doesn't, Evelyn remains too low on health, especially in her earlier levels before she can afford very much AP. Secondly, she's an assassin champion. Her late game isn't that good. She doesn't scale very hard. She can't build things like Locket or Knight's Vow and peel for a carry. She has to try to one-shot the enemy carry even though she's very squishy herself. A big problem with this is for Evelyn to go in and one-shot a carry, she needs to be more fed than them or a much better player than them since she is an assassin champion. Now this is a little bit tricky because Evelyn doesn't even have invisibility anymore at level 1 through 5. She doesn't get invisibility till level 6, which I feel like is an extremely arbitrary. Essentially, she's a power farm jungler until level 6, unless the enemy laners are retarded and somehow get ganked by an Evelyn jungle, which her ganks are absolute garbage before she has invisibility. I don't even understand how you do get ganked by her. Only times I've seen her ganks work pre-6, silver and less essentially. A few times in gold I've seen it, but overall her ganks pre-6 are useless and she kind of just needs to power farm, because if she does run into the enemy jungler, she's gonna get fucked, hands down. I really do like what they did with her hate spikes. I think it was a needed improvement. Before it was kind of stale with the way it worked. Now that they added a skill shot, and whenever she does hit the target, she gets a bunch of extra damage on them with her overall hate spikes. I feel like that's a really good improvement. I'm not quite sure why you didn't give her hate spikes any kind of AD scaling or anything of that nature. Her W, they made it a charm, which is fine. However, if you're not level 6, it's pretty much useless because you can't close the distance to get to the enemy since they can see you because you don't have your invisibility to level 6. So your lure is pretty much useless other than clearing camps until you are level 6. Before Evelyn, when she had her invisibility at all ranks, her W was a speed up. She can come in behind enemies, force their flash, and then speed up to finish them off. Overall, this is a massive nerf to her early game. Another problem with her W is it takes way too freaking long. Having to wait 2.5 seconds before you can actually use the charm aspect of her allure is way too long. Even once you are level 6 and have invisibility, unless you have a huge distance of where you can chase that target, it is very difficult to hit them with a single ability or skill on Evelyn to charm them, since she doesn't have a speed up anymore. Before she used to have a speed up, now her E does have a speed up built into it, but she has to be close enough to use it, which can be very difficult to do. Now her E itself is improved. It does overall more damage. I think it's really nice how they made it do more damage whenever she's invisible. Once she is visible and uses it, then it will go down to a weaker form where it's not empowered. I feel like this is really cool. Overall, it can't carry the rest of her turd of a kit. Now her ultimate is really interesting. Evelyn's old ultimate gave her a lot of engage power. It let her team fight really well, especially if she timed it properly. If she hit a bunch of people, she got a big ass shield and could just tank loads and loads of damage. The thing with Evelyn's new ultimate is it's actually a little bit better in the early and mid game since there's not as much team fighting. In the late game though, it's not inherently good. It's only a good ultimate in the late game if your team is essentially winning and you come in and snipe the enemies because they're all really low. Other than that, it's not a good ultimate. If the enemy team has a proper front line or 1 or 2 tank players, you're going to find it's very difficult to actually get to the back line without dying instantly now that your ultimate doesn't give you a huge ass shield. And the early and mid game, it's a lot stronger because it's got higher base damage. It does overall more. You can one-shot people with it whenever they're really low, which is nice. And it's also good for turret diving because you can use it, get out pretty much instantly, assuming you have a tanky teammate to tank the turret initially, since Evelyn does have such a little amount of HP. If they wanted to make her ultimate a lot better, they should really drop the cooldown on it or the mana cost, because as it is in the early game, she needs her ultimate a lot more than she has it. She can die way too easily in the early game if the enemy jungler does show up. I would really like Riot to make her a little bit more dynamic, giving her 2 ways to use it. The first way should give her a shield and put her into the enemy team. The second way should be the way it is currently right now. It's a lot of damage and it gets her out really quick. Now, what I would like to see is the same way kind of how Warwick's Q works. If he holds down Q, he'll go through the target. If he just presses it, he'll just bite onto the target. Do that with Evelyn's ult. If she holds down R, I would like it to give her a big shield and do less damage. And if she just presses R, it'll just do what it currently does. It'll do the assassination and bounce her out. Let's go back over kind of what we talked about. Her passive sucks because the health regeneration only helps her out if she's already really low on health. Secondly, now that her passive doesn't give mana anymore, if you take her blue buff, she's completely screwed in the early game. And since she's an assassin, that makes her useless. Her W's charm is pretty much completely useless because you can't get to the enemies before they run away, since they can't see you until you are level 6. You really need invisibility before you can use it, and even when you do use it, when you are invisible, you need to be behind the enemies, otherwise right when you use it, they'll just run away because they know you're there. It's so telegraphed that even a bronze player knows to run when they see the little Evelyn heart over their head. Evelyn's R isn't diverse enough. She can't really open a fight with it like she could before. She can only really use it as a KS execute and to get out of a bad situation, since it does push her back pretty far. They definitely need to fix that by giving her ultimate 2 uses like I mentioned. And finally, they fucked her scalings on her abilities. She no longer scales with any AD, so she is extremely limited on what items she can actually build, which is boring if you're an Evelyn main. Overall, not very exciting if you want to play her in general. Evelyn can't really 1v1 any early game character. Kha'Zix, Warwick, Lee Sin, Nidalee, Rek'Sai, any early game character will really destroy her. Overall, she's not worth playing unless you're playing her purely for fun in a normal game, or if you are smurfing and want to have fun in a ranked game. Past Diamond Elo, past Diamond 5, she's definitely not viable at all, even if you are really good with her, since junglers at that point start to get a lot better at the game. You can probably pull her off in Platinum if you really dedicate yourself to her, but I don't really see the point because there's just going to be a whole lot of effort with very little payoff. To wrap up this video, should you main Evelyn? The answer is no. She's very weak right now. There's much better choices. She can easily get counter jungled, which will set her so far behind she'll have no hope of coming back. If the game goes late game, which it often does in lower elo, you're screwed. She can only go AP, so if your team is already AP, you can't pick her. If your team doesn't have a tank, you can't pick her. And if the enemy team has more tanks than you and a lot more CC, you can't really pick her. You're going to do yourself a big favor by staying away from her, just like you should stay away from Fiddlesticks jungle. If you're an Evelyn main, try not to get butthurt. These are just my opinions. If you can make her work, good for you, fuck me, but I'm just giving you guys all a fair warning. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out immensely. My name is KingStix. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.